Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sean Andrew, back with another review. This time we'll be talking about The Secret Circle, Season 1, Episode 12, Witness. Now, there are three main stories that seem to be running in this episode. We're going to talk about the two I felt weren't as important first. First one, we have Dawn, who goes and talks to Adam's father, telling him that Charles kind of abused her now that he has a crystal, and Adam's father already kind of pissed off at how everything has been between him and Charles, that he decides that he's going to help. He calls Charles over, knocks him down, takes the crystal, and then actually fills his lungs up with water, the same thing that Charles did to him earlier on in the season. And Charles, now seeing what's going on, realizes he doesn't have the crystal, he doesn't have any power. He then ends up leaving. But as Dawn returns to get the crystal, Adam's father now is like, you know what? I'll hold on to it for a while. And I think Dawn really kind of messed herself up with that part. Now over with Faye. She's actually in her own little predicament as she goes back to the guy who's running the website and runs into one of his clients, or former clients as he kind of puts it. He's actually looking for some type of drug, leading us to know that he was a type of drug dealer. But in this case, it's not the typical crack or weed of some sort. In this case, it's actually some type of dark magic. Faye and the guy have a few words back and forth, and he actually makes the other guy go off and go get him the drugs. Towards the end, he ends up giving Faye a little sample. And knowing how Faye is, since this drug is supposed to give you a bit of power, at least a sense of rush in that kind of high, almost, if you will, you can tell she's going to try it, and that's going to be a problem later on. They give Faye such a bad rep. I mean, sometimes they just make certain characters seem so stereotypical, and Faye is definitely going to be categorized in that. Now, on to the main story. Jake meets up with Cassie and needs her help about unblocking one of his dreams. He has memory. He has a memory spell that he created and needs someone like Cassie who's strong enough to probably go into her dream to help him unblock this. As she goes into his dream, it's the situation where we learn that he's on the boat that the whole fire that killed their family was. But we learned it doesn't really turn out exactly how they thought. There's a point where Jake he can't go any further. He stops. Cassie continues, and she sees the bodies of all the other circle members. Well, most of them, and they all had their throats cut. She also sees Adam's father walk past. Again, these people can't seem to see her, and they also didn't see her father wrapped up in this type of cloak, and the witch hunters are there, and they're going to light him on fire. As they put down this black powder around him and set everything on fire, he actually starts to chant this spell, and this medallion falls into his hand. Next thing you know, it pushes the fire out towards the other witch hunters and then sets them on fire. They're running around going crazy, and they're setting everything else on fire. He ends up walking out afterwards. He gets himself free and then leaves. Cassie, on the other hand, is starting to become affected by the actual memory because her physical body starts to suffocate from the smoke. But there's also something weird that happens. There's a woman there that recognizes Cassie. Well, she doesn't recognize her. She sees that Cassie is there, and she says, "You shouldn't be here." Now, mind, that's the only time they talked about it, though, so I'm not sure where they're going to go with that. But in the real world, they have Adam and Diana show up, and they rush in. They rush in to see what's going on since she is choking, and Jake from this time has woken up, and they're seeing her as she's coughing and everything, and they do this slight little spell to get her breathing under control. Jake goes back in and then pulls her out. They're sitting around, they're talking about what happened. Adam's kind of distraught, not believing that his father would have actually been there because that does raise a lot of extra questions with the father walking past and, right before somebody gets their throat cut. That's pretty messed up. But we end up closing out the show with this. They have Cassie goes to the ship to confirm that what she saw was real. And as she goes to the place in the ship where they were actually going to set her father on fire, the medallion he had fell in between some type of an open vent. She finds the medallion, now realizing her father must be real if this is real. It was definitely not just a memory. Or it was a memory, but it wasn't like a dream. This was a solid thing that actually happened, since she's seeing something that Jake couldn't see, knowing it was Jake's memory. Which is odd, by the way, because he was a baby and they didn't really explain how he got off the ship. So that was kind of strange. But she then decides she's going to go to her father's burial grave with Jake, and they open it up, and it's some type of animal skeleton. So she now knows that he has to be alive. And that's how they end up ending off the episode. I will say this. As much as I do like the show, I know it's kind of even late for me to be putting up this review, but I just feel like it's not keeping me as interested as I was like. Just because the storyline is just it's so open. If it was like 24, where you knew, okay, this is Jack's purpose. He's trying to stop the terrorists. Okay, bam. But in this case, it's a couple of kids trying to figure out some magic and their history and how it blends with them. And you practically can just leave anything open. It's nothing too consistent. So when I see that the viewership has really dropped from the 3 million it had down to this episode, that I think had down to maybe, I think it was like 1.6 million, I felt like, well, I'm not surprised so many people aren't staying in interest, because now they lost 50% of their viewers. So they need to really step it up with what they're doing, get some bigger advertisers behind it or something. But as for now, I will stay watching the show. It's interesting enough to make me want to come back and see what's going to happen with the characters. Now, leave your comments down below on your thoughts of the show. Do you think Faye's going to go off the deep end? Is Diana going to ever get over dealing with Adam now being more interested in Cassie? Is Jake and Cassie going to hook up? I mean, they show a little something for the next clip, but I mean, officially hook up. I think that's going to be interesting, because that'll be devastating to Adam. Either way, that has been my review. I am Sean Andrew with the TV Show Review, and this has been my review of The Secret Circle, Season 1, Episode 12, Witness. See ya.